Well, I hope this is being recorded, but hi everyone. I wanted to introduce two of our Simmons alums, which is really special because I don't think we've had this before, which is like, really nice to have. And this is just going to be a conversation with some of two dental students right now, Sarah and Lena. Um, so I'm just going to introduce myself first. My name is Skylar. I am a pre-dental student. I'm also the pre-dental chair and the pre-health liaison. I am a senior neuroscience major with a double minor in biostatistics and chemistry. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much about me. So Lena and Sarah, if you want to introduce yourselves, if you could just say your name, your hometown, your Simmons year of graduation, and your Simmons majors and minors, if you had any minors. And if you could also say your dental year, that'd be great too.
Sure. So my name is Lena, and I am a first year student at Tufts Dental, and I graduated from Simmons this past spring in 2020. And I studied nutrition and economics, and I'm from North Reading, Massachusetts.
Hi, my name is Sarah Islam. I graduated in the year 2020, so very recent. I majored in biochemistry, and I'm currently a first year student at Stony Brook. Stony Brook Dental.
Okay. So, first of all, like I think this is the question on like a lot of people's minds, but like why did you choose like dentistry? Like what was, the point of it? Like what was your main draw? And, did like something or anything inspire you to pursue dentistry?
So I can share. So I wanted to do something in the healthcare field. I always wanted to help people and to interact with patients directly. And I also really like the natural sciences, but I also wanted to do something that was very hands-on because I've always liked art and like anything that involved that manual dexterity. So I had a few mentors and a few role models who are actually in the dental field. So that's kind of like how I got introduced. And yeah, like I thought it sounded really interesting and they had such an impact on their community. So that's really like just a combination of things.
If I'm going to be really honest, it's going to be because when I was younger, I was scared of the dentist, and that fear kind of led me to become more curious about it. And when I was no longer scared of the dentist, I realized how comforting it was, or how like it was so important for your health. And then I think as I got older, I realized that being in dentistry requires a lot of dexterity and has a very artistic side. So that definitely drew me closer.
Yeah, I feel like definitely a main draw is the hands-on aspect of it. And I know like a lot of people are like artists and they really like, the art of it as well. Which is definitely like the biggest thing for me too, because I can't imagine myself having a job without something hands-on. Which is why psychiatry, probably not my thing. But yeah, I definitely get that. And I think a lot of students are like that too. So both of you are Simmons alums. So, why did you decide to go to Simmons? Like, how do you think it helped you as both a student and, a, potential pre-health student as well? And did anything about the fact that it is a women-centered institution help you or hinder you in any way?
I chose Simmons mostly because it was a women-centered institution. Um, I think like when I knew I wanted to do dentistry, so I knew I'd have to take a lot of science classes, and I guess I thought that going to a women-centered institution would be really good for studying STEM, and I was not wrong. I think I was absolutely right, and I think that it was the best choice I made. I think um, had I been in like a co-ed school, I don't know if I would have continued with the science classes. Um, And I think the small class sizes were very beneficial as well. You got to really know your classmates and professors, and there are just so many opportunities for leadership and research.
Yeah, I completely agree with Lena. It's like um, the small class size and that community feel. All of the professors, they know you by name, and it's really easy to make connections. And um, especially with like women in STEM, like having that safe environment where, you feel motivated to participate, and, there's this really supportive community there. So yeah, I definitely liked Simmons because it was a women-centered college. And also, like, I did want to be a STEM major. So they had all of the resources, and they trained their students really well for like research and so many different programs and careers. So yeah, I also like that it's in the city. So there are plenty of opportunities to shadow and do research. So, like the location is really nice as well.
So yeah, you just mentioned like, shadowing and research. Like, what did you want to do as a pre-dental student? Like, did you, decide to do research? Like, I know personally me as a pre-dental, I don't love research, so I did like the minimum. Like, is there anything that you would suggest if someone is interested in that, and how they would go about it?
Sarah and I actually did a research project together with my other friend May, and that was a highlight of undergraduate careers, and definitely a highlight in my applications to dental school. Um, and we got a lot of guidance from the different departments in the park science building. Um, it was through that independent like Simmons research grant. But if you don't like research, it's not a must. But I do recommend it. Even if you think you won't like it, I think it's good to get your feet wet in it, and because it goes way to learn. But if you don't like it, then don't stress about it. But I would give it a try.
Yeah, with research, it's not a requirement, but it definitely does help to kind of get introduced into that kind of, like all the work that goes behind all of these, like all of this stuff that you're going to be studying. So, yeah, that project was really fun, and it was kind of dental related too. So yeah, you can do research at Simmons, but if you want to for your senior year, you could also do like, you could go off campus and do research, or for me, like I did a few internships that were kind of research based. So if you want to do something outside of campus, like there's so many places, surrounding us. You can always look for opportunities. You can, if you find like a project that seems really interesting, like you can email, the PI, and sometimes they get back to you and they're very open to having students in their labs. So yeah, it definitely helps to be at a college like Simmons where, it's very doable.
Yeah, and also like, some of the classes do incorporate like research aspects to them, like especially the orgo, um, which was interesting. Lena was actually my lab TA for that class second semester, so she knows what everything that went on when I took orgo. But I know like, orgo is definitely like a big thing that a lot of people are like scared of. Like, well, do you have any suggestions for that? How did you survive, maybe not thrive, through that class? Anything?
The second language book that you have to buy and use for that class was the best, and I used it to study for the DAT as well. Um, but I think go into orgo with an open mind and think like a chemist. Like I know it sounds like it's not real, but honestly, using that quote, think like a chemist, really helped me. Um, and it seems like it's a lot of memorization, but it really isn't. But it's definitely one of the hardest subjects, but it's definitely manageable at the same time. And yeah, that's my advice. Sarah was also a TA.
Yeah. So Lena and I were actually in the same Orgo class, and I remember like we used to do problems out, and that was really helpful. Like it helps to just write things down over and over again. Um, Organic Chemistry as a Second Language. Like I love that book. That was really helpful. Um, so yeah, like Lena said, it is manageable. It just, requires a lot of patience also. Because I remember sometimes, if I really wanted to get something and I just wasn't getting it, like, just take a break and then come back. Don't get discouraged because it is hard. I think a lot of us agree that it's a really challenging subject. So yeah, it's all manageable.
Yeah, and the thing about orgo is like sometimes more hours spent will help you in a subject and sometimes it won't. And I think with orgo, hours spent doesn't really have a correlation with like how well you'll do, because I think it's like a conceptual thing. So like Sarah said, like give your mind a rest. And once you get the concepts, you should be good. And I think like doing it, talking out with friends is really good as well. Because once you understand like the patterns and the rules, you don't really have to actually memorize that much.
Also, Dr. Lee and Dr. Gurney are always available, and I mean, it's a little more difficult online, I'm sure, but if you ever, or if you take the class in person, they're always like have their door open, they want to talk to you about it, and that's really nice to have.
I was just, oh, sorry. No, I was
Oh
just
no, go
gonna
ahead.
say that they're great for office hours. Like they're really helpful, and they really like it when their students come and ask for help. So definitely recommend, like if you're struggling, like don't feel shy, like go ahead and ask for help, and they make things so much easier.
Yeah, and I think that's also just a general thing about Simmons professors in general, is that they're always so open, which is like, I feel like it's kind of weird for a school sometimes. And they're, willing to talk about like really anything with you, if that's like your life, if it's, you're struggling in their class or even in another class. Like I know I've gone to some professor before, I'm just be like, I don't like this class. And they're like, yeah, that sucks. So, but I think that's like definitely an upside with Simmons. I don't know if you guys have had the same experience as I have in that sense, but having professors that really care about you both as like a student and as like a person, I think is really beneficial. So if you were to like do over anything that you did at Simmons as a pre-dental student, or just like a undergraduate, like would it be anything? Doesn't have to be dentistry related. Would you change anything at all?
That's a good question. um, I think my advice would be like, um, I don't know, like whoever's pre-dental right now, just stay focused on your work. And um, I don't know if I would change anything. I think, like that's actually tough. I'm not sure. I think if you just like stay focused and like try. I know it's difficult right now with coronavirus, so I was thinking like try to shadow as much as you can. But I know it's kind of difficult to do things like that right now. But be easier on yourself. Um, I think looking back, I feel like I overthought a lot of things, and like I made things more stressful than they had to be. So I think that's the one thing I would change, is maybe don't panic so much, but just as long as you just stay focused and you have a goal and you stick to it. And if it doesn't work out, then that's perfectly fine. Like you can always, go with something else that's better for you.
I agree with Sarah about not stressing out too much. I think I overcommitted a lot, but if I were to do it again, I don't know if I were to do it any differently with overcommitment, because I do think I learned a lot. Um, in dental school, you have to be really good with managing your time as well. So I think that helped. But I do think if I were to go back, like I didn't major in like a hard science. And I do think that like while I learned a lot, I think it might have been helpful if I took more science classes, because I only took the bare minimum that I needed to fulfill my prerequisites. So I think it would have helped with classes and with understanding more. Like when I read like research papers like dentistry, it takes me a bit longer to understand them, like the scientific part. So I think having taking more classes in the science field would have been helpful, like specifically more biology classes probably, but also probably more chemistry because I really like chemistry and I didn't take chemistry like as much as I would have liked.
So like going along the line of like classes and stuff, were there any electives that you like particularly enjoyed, or like if they brought you to like a new minor or something that you really liked, and how you like go about like finding that?
Yes, I really liked global health. And then there was another class. It was the learning community requirement, and it was I think it was two classes together. So it was um, urban urban medical communities, and I forgot the name of the other one. But basically, it was really helpful because it kind of helped you understand, like um, the way, like the nature of medicine and how, like the healthcare system, there's a lot of bias. So I think, it's a good foundation when you're going into the healthcare field to kind of understand the history behind why we have, so much discrimination in healthcare. So I think those classes were really good. And then like anything that's kind of public health related, I really enjoyed. And it was also good to kind of learn about, how health is perceived in different communities. So yeah, those classes I really liked.
I really liked all of my economics classes. One that I took that I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did was gender globalization and development class, um, which I didn't think that I would like it that much, um, because I didn't think it had many correlations with health or associations with health, but actually did have a lot of things that I learned. So I recommend that class. Or just like, even if you don't think you'll like a class, you might actually really like it. And that was like one of my favorite classes that I took at Simmons. Um, and yeah, I also really liked microeconomics, which is kind of random, but that was fun. And then the nutrition classes that I took were pretty helpful with learning about like counseling and like community health. So yeah, I liked a lot of classes.
Who did you take micro with?
I took micro with Professor Mukherjee.
Oh my gosh, me too. I
She's
mean, I
so
ended up
great.
not liking econ, but like, I really like Professor Mukherjee.
Yeah, she's so great.
Yeah, she's really sweet. Um, so I know we mentioned this briefly before, and how we, all like the hands-on aspect and the artistic aspect of dentistry. Um, and I know a lot of people who go into dentistry do have some kind of interest in art, but as someone who doesn't, like, do you recommend taking, an art class or like, maybe just picking up musical instrument? Like, what do you think about that?
If you don't like art, I wouldn't take I wouldn't take an art class. I would do it for fun, like try doing something with dexterity for fun. If you don't like drawing, like maybe try doing like jewelry making, or there are like other things that you can do that like it doesn't have to be painting or playing an instrument, but there are a bunch of things that you can do with dexterity. But definitely try something like even like gardening or something. But I wouldn't like those ceramic classes are very long and you have to spend a lot of time outside of the lab. Oh, Skylar would know because she's a TA. So if you don't like it, I would only take ceramics if you like it because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I agree. I think ceramics, I also took a ceramics class. I took it at Mass Art, and it is very time consuming and it requires a lot of time and commitment. And I remember taking it the same year that I was taking Orgo. So, like, I couldn't put in that much, like, as much time into it as I had wanted to. And so um, it was fun, but I think that if I wasn't so stressed out about Orgo and like other science classes, like I would have enjoyed it more. So yeah, I think like Lena said, like if you want to try an art class for fun, it might, maybe if it's not as enjoyable as you had hoped it would be, it might give you some of the patience that might be required when you're, like working in dental school. But yeah, there are different options, like different ways to kind of practice that manual dexterity. I think ceramics, like working with the materials, I don't know, like I did the wheelworking ceramics class, like the pottery. So I feel like with that, there was a lot of manual dexterity required. But Lena, how about the what was the name of the class that you did where there's a lot of like cutting and
Yeah, I did ceramic hand building.
yeah.
So that was cool. But like our first project, you had to build something that was like 20 inches. So that was a bit like bigger than what the mouse would be. But I do think it like definitely helped with my hand skills. But I think it would have been like I took it also with orgo. I think it like I didn't really even have enough time, I feel like, to go and like perfect those skills.
Yeah.
So it wasn't for me, but definitely a good learning experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I feel. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say like with that class, like it's not as like with dentistry, it's like you're working with very small, like intricate things. So it's like, yeah, I guess sometimes a ceramic class might not be like the best class to take. Um, but yeah, like if you want to do something for fun and you don't have that much going on for a certain semester, like your schedule is a lot lighter, then you can try something new. Like I don't discourage it, but you don't necessarily have to do, very, like a lot of people recommend ceramics, but you don't have to take ceramics.
Yeah, I feel like if you were gonna do it, I would also suggest not taking it your sophomore year when you take orgo. Because like, I did kind of overcommit myself that year as well, and kind of turned out badly in the orgo field. um, but yeah, thank you so much for like your insight on that too. So I know that a lot of students right now have had their education interrupted, and we haven't been able to be in Boston. And I know it's very exciting to be in a city and going to Simmons because it's in a city in a very vibrant part of the city as well. So like I know you guys were there for, well, unfortunately only 3.5 years. Well, 3.75 of a year. What was your favorite thing about Boston? Like, doesn't have to be school related. Just something that you would like to do on the weekends, or what did you like?
I liked how the city was so walkable. You can go like anywhere, really. Um, yeah, I think that was probably my favorite thing. I liked going to the public garden a lot. Um, and Isabel Stewart Garden Museum was my favorite. And the food around was pretty good, but spent too much money.
Yeah, same. Everything was so accessible and um, yeah, like Lena said, there are a lot of fun things to do in Boston. Like you never get bored. So, if you ever want to treat yourself, like it's easy to walk somewhere and just do that very easily.
Okay, so why I know the dental school application process is, I'm sure, is like very stressful, and like you have to apply to a lot of schools. um, but which schools did you choose, and like why? And what was your reasoning for choosing the school that you did in the end?
So each application costs a lot of money. So um, you have to be like kind of selective with what you choose unless you want to spend a lot of money. So I can't even remember like off the top of my head. They're kind of, I think I applied to like 13 schools, which is kind of like in the medium range because I hear people apply to like every single school in the country, or some people apply to like just the ones in their state. But I applied to like I think I let myself apply to like two or three, no, actually four. I allowed myself to apply to four that were out of state and one that was like completely out of the region, like out of New England. Um, but I ended up choosing Tufts because it was the first school that I got into, I think. So I think I just had that amount of joy, and it's like right next to my favorite bubble tea place. Um, so that's like, I think just because it was the first school I got into, I was really excited. Um, like I think just that feeling I had. I think I just had a gut feeling when I went there as well that I wanted to go to that school. Um, so that was it for me.
So, like Lena said, the application process, like applying to each school, it is very expensive. But if that's something that you don't mind doing, then you can go ahead and apply to as many as you like. Um, for me, I applied to about like, I think 10 or 11. So I chose schools that were all kind of in the Northeast because I didn't want to go too far away from, where I was already kind of familiar with because I'm from Massachusetts originally. So I wasn't sure, like I had a few in my top five that I really liked, but I wasn't sure, like which one I was going to pick. So it wasn't until, after I went for the interviews, I got a sense of what I really liked. So when I came back from Stony Brook, I really felt like with the faculty and the students, like there was this really nice, it kind of reminded me of Simmons, like it had a smaller, I chose it for the smaller class size, but also that community feel. So, which I wasn't really, like I knew that it was a smaller school, but I wasn't expecting to like my visit so much. So sometimes like once you get in and you kind of, or not get in, but you like go to an interview and you kind of visit the campus, you have a better idea of what the school is like. And also, like with their values and, like they're so dedicated towards like community health. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why I chose Stony Brook.
So, I know that we are currently living in a pandemic right now. Um, so, is your school online right now? Like, how is that going for you? And, how do you think that, if you know from before, how has a school adapted in that sense and, what they're doing for that?
We're completely online for first and second year students, and third and fourth year students go in for clinic. And they said that next semester that will be there for operative. So that's only like a few times a week, and the rest of our classes are going to be remote. But I think the future of education, like I predict that it's probably like changed after this pandemic. Like I feel like until everyone's vaccinated, all of our lectures are probably going to be remote until everybody's like good, like this the country has had vaccines distributed. um but yeah, our tests are on ExamSoft, which is this computer software that records you and records the audio as well, and has this artificial intelligence feature that tracks like your eye movement. So if you move your eyes too much, it'll flag you, and if you have a certain amount of flags, then you'll have to get like seen by the ethics committee. So like your face has to be on the screen the whole time, which is like kind of stressful because sometimes I'm like tempted to look down at my mouse to like go to the next question. So I have to get like kind of good at that. But yeah, overall, yeah, I kind of got used to it because in dental school you do have exams like quite often. So I think I got practice and I got used to it. I've kind of gotten used to the whole online thing. And I used to do our lectures like are all recorded, so I used to watch them after class, so I could pause and go back. But I'm trying to get used to like the live thing because I felt really disconnected from my school doing it that way. So yeah, also I think highly recommend getting an iPad for dental school.
Yes, so for us, I'm very familiar with ExamSoft. We're currently remote as well. Um, so a lot of online tests, and like Lena said, like it's so hard to like stay focused when you're taking an exam and you don't, like, no one knows what your environment is like and you just want to like look away or like rest your eyes for a minute. So that's something that I've definitely had to get used to. So like us first year students, we're going to be doing things remotely until January. And then we have to go on campus and just kind of a lot of our like in-person labs and like clinicals, like a lot of things got pushed. So we're going to be doing that when we're all on campus. Um, so yeah, like I've kind of gotten used to the remote learning, but you know, it's not the same as in-person classes.
Yeah. So what are your tips for like, staying motivated now and like, you know, study skills, or if you have any, and, how do you de-stress? I'm sure you have a lot going on, so you want to find something that'll help you try to like relax, like anything that you have for that.
At Tufts Dental, they have a very big emphasis on wellness and meditation and stuff, which I had never done until orientation. So I definitely recommend that. I've been trying to do it recently because I've been like tired and fatigued. So I just go on YouTube and I look up like guided meditation. So I recommend that. It actually has been helping me stay awake during the day. Because when you're at home, like it's so easy to just go into bed and sleep during the middle of the day, and then you wake up and like your whole like night schedule is messed up. So, but definitely take naps if you're tired. But try to limit it to, I think I think they say like either like less than 30 minutes or greater than 2 hours or something like that, because if it's like in between, you're gonna feel groggy. Um, and try to keep a consistent sleep schedule. It's really hard. I've been trying to, and we actually during orientation they had all these talks for us about like taking care of yourself. So they had like a sleep specialist come in, which was really interesting, and she gave us a bunch of tips. So basically, like fixing your sleep schedule, you want to maintain a constant time at which you wake up, and then you'll go to sleep at that constant time. And like I'm in the process of fixing mine right now because I was staying up like really late. But basically, she said like after 2 weeks of waking up at the same time, your body will kind of get used to it. And like even if you don't feel tired, it's really important to get that right amount of sleep, because and you might have like disruptions in your sleep that you're not even noticing, like micro disruptions, I think it's called. So I think that's really important. But yeah, that it's definitely really hard to stay motivated during the pandemic. But I think just like reward yourself with like if you've had any accomplishment, like no matter how small it is, just to reward yourself um and take care of yourself. But it's definitely hard. Yeah, but I think people will know like when you're applying to schools that you did this all through a pandemic. Um, so yeah, just try your best.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Lena said. It's like kind of hard to stay disciplined and have like a steady like routine when you're at home. And then there's also like, you know, the stress of so many different things going on right now. So um, sleep is very important. And I myself, like I'm trying really hard to, you know, keep things scheduled and stick to a schedule. But yeah, it's hard to do it while you're at home. Um, so for staying like on top of things with classes, I would just suggest, you know, like after you have a lecture, you know, take a little break and then go back and try to study, keep up with the material. I know like when I leave things, you know, I like let my guard down and I leave things, you know, for later, it kind of accumulates because there's a lot of stuff that you have to keep up with in dental school. So try to do that so that later you're not in like a panic situation because you know it is a lot of material to keep up with. But also be kind to yourself and take those breaks because you know like your health is the most important thing.
Okay. So I know that you both mentioned that you're probably going to be going back in the spring and, you know, moving. Like, how is, that going to work for you? Like, do you know like what's happening with that? Do you have an apartment planned out, or are you just kind of still figuring that out right now?
Tufts is, I live in Massachusetts, so Tufts is in Boston. So I wasn't too worried about it, but about like getting a place. But now I'm like thinking about it because I do have like I live with immunocompromised people. My class is really big. It's like 200 people times four because there's 200 people in each class, plus a med school, a nutrition program, a PA program. Um, so I'll probably try to move closer just for the safety of my family. Even though they're going to be having us in small groups, I think it's still like a lot of exposure. I'm just really scared of coronavirus. So I'm just trying to take extra precautions.
Yeah, it's really important to stay safe during this time. So like, I encourage like anybody who's, like kind of coming to and back, from different places, just try to stay situated in one place if you can, especially if, there's remote learning going on. So I have a place in Long Island for now, but I'm kind of situated in Massachusetts because, it's not really safe to go back and forth. Um, but yeah, when I go back in January, it's going to be very different from the way things are right now because, like you're comfortable in your own home. So then it's like, adjusting to that. And like it's a long break between, when I was in a dorm in undergrad. So there's like some independence there, but still you're surrounded by like a lot of your classmates and like this community. So it's definitely going to be like an adjustment being completely by yourself. But I think that I kind of feel like being away from home, it might help, with like focusing and concentrating on class more because I feel like being comfortable, it kind of, you know, you kind of you feel so comfortable that you don't really feel like studying sometimes. Yeah, so that's definitely like the biggest struggle for remote learning, I would say.
Okay. So, you know, I mean, obviously you're both first year dental students. Like, what is the thing you're looking forward to most? Trying to be a little more positive. Um, but what are you looking forward to most of, in your like dental not application, in your dental education? And, do you have a plan, or like, do you think you're going to specialize? Do you think you're going to go to do a residency? Like, what are you going to do with that?
I'm excited to finally hold a drill. And I'm also really excited to get my loops, which are like glasses with magnifying glasses on them so you can see the tooth really well. Um, yeah, I've just been like kind of imagining like holding a drill for so long, and then it got like pushed back. And so like I'm just like really excited to finally be able to do that. I'm really excited to be able to understand what the different dental materials that they use are. Um, and like what I'm really excited about dental materials. I think that's where like a lot of like innovations happening. And kind of understanding the different products is something I'm really excited about. Um, but it probably won't be for a while because like I still don't even know. Like I feel like I don't know anything. Um, I don't know if I'll specialize or not, or about residency. But residency is optional in Massachusetts. But people might do like a general residency to get like extra practice, um, or they might do residency to specialize. But unfortunately, a lot of those residencies they cost money, but there are a few that actually have stipends that people don't know about. Like I think dental radiology you get a stipend for, and there are a couple more. But I honestly have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm excited to learn.
I'm also excited for a lot of like the hands-on work. Um, like Lena said, it sounds so exciting to like think about finally holding a drill and working on like working with the actual materials. Because like if you have a lecture and like they talk about how you're going to restore something, like you don't really get to visualize that until you're actually like doing it yourself. So that will be really exciting. With specializing, I also like, for right now, I'm not sure. I think that it would help to, like get to know more about the different specialties. And I think, once you actually meet those specialists and kind of see what they do, um, if you have a chance, like if you get a chance eventually, when you're shadowing for dental school, like you can definitely try to see like what the different specialties, what they do, like you can shadow them. But right now as a dental student, like I'm also, for now, I'm just focusing on general, and hopefully, like when things get, pick up more, I'll be able to know if I'm going to specialize in anything. But for now, I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
Yeah, so you just mentioned like shadowing. I know we touched on this before, but did you like when you were shadowing? Like, first of all, do your schools require it? Before you apply. I know it's very difficult now with the pandemic going on. But did you just shadow like a general dentist? Did you try to do multiple specialties, or how did you get those opportunities?
I just shadowed a general dentist, um, and it was my school did require it. I think we require 75 hours, but I did go interview at one school where they said they don't really care that much about shadowing. Um, and yeah, so I think it depends on what school you're going to. And some schools will require like 100 hours or more. Um, and some schools will only require like a few hours. But I think I do as much as you can. It's a really good experience. And like when I was there, something I regret not doing more is like looking more like I think dental materials is so interesting, and like we actually have like stuff about those materials comes up on tests. So when I was shadowing, like honestly really helped to look at the products that the dentist was using and afterwards like look them up and see what they do. That's really helped like now, and like sometimes I'm like I should have done that more. um so when you're shadowing, that's a really good thing to look out for and learn from, and what those products contain. I think that's where like the chemistry part comes in. Like when you're studying chemistry in undergrad, you're like, when is this ever going to help me as a doctor? But actually has very high relevance in dental products and stuff. So um so it's like it's relevant. And the dentist I shadowed, I've known her for a pretty long time through the mosque that I go to. So I think reaching out to people in your community, people generally want to help each other.
Yeah. So some schools, like Lena said, like some don't have as much of an emphasis on shadowing while others do. But it depends on where you want to go and where you apply. But it's like a really nice experience, because one day, like you'll be sitting in that chair and doing those procedures. So it's nice to see, like what a workday is like for a dentist, and how they interact with different patients. So I definitely think that that's like a nice preview into what you're applying for. So like I recommend it, even if like certain schools they don't really require it, like at least maybe like a day or like a few hours, like, just to see if you like it, if it's the right field for you. And I'm sure like, yeah, general dentistry, they cover so many things. I shadowed a pediatric dentist and an orthodontist, but I had more shadowing hours with a general dentist. So, like you really get a good feel for how dentistry is through general dentistry, through shadowing a general dentist. So, if you're interested in the specialties, or if a school kind of if they recommend shadowing a specialist, then, like try to look for some of those. But general dentistry, I think is, like that's fine. Shadowing a general dentist is perfectly good enough. Um, yeah. So just check like the number of hours required at each school, because I know like different schools have different requirements. But um, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, so I know like another big area of like stress for a lot of pre-dental students is the dental admission test, or the DAT. How did you go about studying for that? Like, you know, when did you take it and how did that go for you?
DAT bootcamp, in my opinion, is all you need, as well as organic chemistry as a second language. And also, I don't know if they've added more videos to help with the math sections. So like Math Destroyer might also be helpful. But that was my worst section. So that's why I'm saying you should probably go beyond DAT bootcamp for the math section. So I think I started studying for it like the summer between my sophomore and junior year because I wanted to take it during junior year, but that didn't work out. I just didn't, I wasn't motivated. I didn't have a good study schedule. So then I just kept moving my test date, and eventually I just put it till the like junior year, after junior year in May. And I applied during that cycle. So I kind of made it as late as I could have made it, which by that point motivated me to study more. But it was honestly really difficult studying for it during the school year. And I think I did most of my studying during the month of May, right before I took the test. I scheduled it for June. So I studied mostly during May. But I would recommend like a 3-month type of thing. I think that would allow more time. And I think I spent too long learning the content. I think you learn the most from reviewing the practice tests and looking at what you got wrong. And I think I didn't do that enough with the biology section because there were very similar questions to the biology section on the DAT compared to DAT bootcamp. And I think chemistry, they have this guy on DAT bootcamp who does YouTube videos named Mike. And his videos are so good, so just take notes on those. But if you need like extra reading, I recommend organic chemistry as a second language. Yeah, and then math. Math was pretty hard because it's really fast, but I'm also pretty bad at math. But they say that the math section is the section that you shouldn't, like, if you score badly on it, that's like the best section to score badly on. Or you should try to score good on it because it'll bring down your overall score if you score bad on it. But the test itself seems really overwhelming. But once you start doing the practice test, it becomes way less intimidating. And I remember I was so nervous the day of the test. Like it was the scariest thing. That the morning of the test, I didn't even need to set an alarm clock. The way I woke up was the sound of like my own beating heart. Like I heard it in my ears. And it was so awful. But then once I got to the testing center and I was like waiting to go in, all I could think about was like, oh, I wonder if I'll beat my score, like my practice test score. So honestly, the excitement at that point makes you feel less scared, but it is a pretty overwhelming experience. And online, it makes, like, if you go into like Reddit or those like what's it called, student doctor network, those forums, I think they're just like filled with trolls. They try to make it seem like way harder than it is. And it is exactly the same as DAT bootcamp. Even the math section is pretty similar. It's just that I didn't think that DAT bootcamp had enough material to prepare you for it, but the practice test itself was very similar. So just don't listen to the trolls. I don't know what their objective is, but it's not that bad. I was actually talking with, like, at an interview, I was talking with some of the other applicants about how like those online forums make you so scared, and we all kind of agreed that we were too scared for the DAT because of those forums, but we were kind of glad that we were that scared because it forced us to study more. But in the long run, I think it would have been much more better for my health if I had not stressed so much about it. So put your health first, and just do those practice tests and learn from them, and you'll be okay. And also the reading section on DAT bootcamp is so hard, and the actual test is much easier. And all the other sections are very comparable.
Yeah, I agree with Lena. I also use DAT Bootcamp, and I would say that the practice tests are really, really helpful. So if you like study the material, and then like, so what I did is I studied it once, and then I took one practice test to kind of see, like where I needed to work on a little bit more. And then I just kept studying the material and taking those practice tests and reviewing what I got wrong. Um, and when you take these tests and you have your scores, don't go on Student Doctor Network and like any of these forums, because really I really don't understand why people who like don't have time for, they have so much time, like they waste it, trying to psych people out. So don't listen to those things. Like looking at other people's scores, it's just going to overwhelm you. Those practice tests, they're really good, but they are really hard. And I remember when I was studying and I was taking those practice tests, like my scores, they were so low. Like every time I took those tests, like they were so low and I get so discouraged. So don't let that stop you from studying. Like it's okay if, like when you're taking the tests, like in the beginning, you're not getting those scores that you want. Just keep trying. Don't be too hard on yourself. I know like I felt so stressed out because of that. Um, but just, like just keep studying those practice tests. Um, yeah, DAT bootcamp was really good. I didn't use anything else. Um, my math score was also my lowest score. So I guess if you have like any, what was it called, Lena? Destroyer, DAT Destroyer for math?
DAT Destroyer is like a lot harder than the math section on the boot camp test and on the real test. So if you can do those in the time limit, you should be okay.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I heard about Destroyer, DAT Destroyer being really good. Um, so like if there's like a subject that you're struggling with, maybe get an additional resource, but DAT Bootcamp was pretty good. Um, just my advice is don't get discouraged when you're taking those practice tests. Like don't let that distract you, because I remember I felt so like unmotivated. Um, but as long as you just keep trying, then you might surprise yourself when you actually take the DAT.
Yeah, you'll probably score higher in the DAT than on the actual on those practice test scores. The scores like essentially don't mean anything. So don't get discouraged and don't compare yourself to people online.
Okay, so the final question I have is, if you could go back to your undergraduate self and tell them like where you are now and what's happening, and what advice would you give them? And would you tell them that everything's going to be okay? Like if you were stressing out in undergrad, like what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say everything's gonna be okay. I'm really glad I took anatomy. Definitely take that class if you can, anatomy 1 and 2. That's like essential for understanding things, even though it's not a prerequisite for all schools. Definitely take that. Um, but yeah, don't stress because you're gonna get there. Like if you really have the goal, you'll find a way to get there, even if you do badly on a class. Those classes don't define you, and what defines you is like your mission. So just like have a mission for yourself, like why you want to be a dentist, and like go towards that, and showcase that like beyond your schoolwork, you can do other things to show how passionate you are. So just like manifest it pretty much, and you'll be good.
I would tell myself that, it wasn't worth, all of that extra stress, but, the hard work does pay off. So just, um, like be easy on yourself and stay motivated, set a goal. Um, and, whatever works out for you, that's good. That worked out for you because it was meant for you. And if something doesn't go according to plan, then, there's always going to be something that's going to guide you in the right direction. So, like everything's going to turn out fine.
Okay, well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming back to Simmons and speaking with me and having, this opportunity for you to share your thoughts, especially being a Simmons alum, which I think is so special to have this opportunity. And it was so, so nice talking with you. I really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Skylar, for having this. It was really nice.